And so, dear colleagues, today we have a dear family friend, Mr. Arun Kaimal, right? And he's, I'm sure, in the Telegram group you have noticed, right? And normally I take a session and then I invite people on the Telegram group. But with Arun Mohan, I took the liberty of saying, Mohan, can you come there? You can see the wonderful posts that he has been putting. So I like to just, I know him when he was a student with Tata Institute of Social Sciences, TIS, which is one of the foremost in India, right? And it was through a mutual colleague known as Mr. Ramesh Warrior. Yeah, I remember the surname now, Mr. Ramesh Warrior, who was kind enough to introduce Arunji to me. So here is the profile now, dear colleagues. So what I'll do is I'll open this up and then I will, so I want more people to hear the profile. So we start with a disclaimer clause for whatever it is worth, right? And yes, this one important WhatsApp that I got, which showed, I think this came from Gani only. I don't know. It has come to me from WhatsApp. So our Datun, people were calling it, it's used by uneducated villagers. Now I've been told that it is sold by Walmart in USA for $15.
Wow.
So this WhatsApp came to me. I said, let me share it with you all. All right. Today's knowledge partner. All right. But before the knowledge partner, my tribute to Dr. Shrikant, all right, who inspires me in spirit. Dr. Parimal Merchant, who has graced this entire lecture series. I'm going to request her to come back again, right? And there was a good suggestion. Can Parimal Merchant talk about the learnings from Dr. Shrikant? So very wonderful suggestion came from, I believe, if I'm not wrong, Shreyan Sundi said that. So we are trying that with Parimal Merchant. All of you all, dear colleagues, I get inspired by all of you all sitting out there. Yes, every video is uploaded on Menon Mantras. The reason is, in case you miss the session, you can watch it. Or if you want a recap, you could watch it. Right? Yes, today's knowledge partner is Mr. Arun Kaimal. He has completed his post-graduation from TIS, which is very well known. Well-rounded HR professional with full employee life cycle HR operations in different geographies over 13 years, 13 years, and he still looks the same, right? After completing his master's uh, in PM, what is PM, sir? And IR?
As a personal management and industrial relations. Personal management and industrial relations.
Personal management and industrial relations from TIS, where he was the president of the College Students Union. He started his career with Nokia and worked in different roles like HR operations, L&D, etc. Longest stint with Nokia was based out of Dubai, UAE, as the HR manager for Saudi Arabia. After 42 months, he moved out of Nokia to come back to Mumbai. All right, he was a regional HR manager for Nokia before he quit Nokia and joined Deutsche Bank as HR business partner. So again, here it is. He worked for Deutsche Bank for a year and then joined GE Energy. So it's very difficult to get into GE, right? And he got into GE and he moved to Bangalore with GE for a bigger role for their aviation business. Then he came back to Mumbai, joined Danher India, sir. Correct me if my pronunciation is wrong, as Human Resource Manager, HRM.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, right, for India, supporting 23 operating companies, right? And finally promoted, and now in Singapore for the last 4 years in Singapore, teaching coaching for the past 14 years. So he started with this, right? And I believe, right, the association started with us, started there. So he's family for us. Guest lectures at various colleges, Tata Institute, SP Jain, American University in Emirates, etc. Yes, he was invited as a panelist in Singapore for HRM Asia, right? And he's a passionate people's person that you could see in the Telegram group also, right? He is also a quiz master and a social worker. In his spare time, I don't think he has spare time, but anyway, in his spare time, Arunji loves reading and spending time in community service. And he's a certified senior professional in HR human resources, right? And he loves mentoring and is actively involved with Asian Institute of Mentoring and Nanyang Technological University, Singapore. So Arunji has made a mark in Singapore also. Welcome, Arunji. Thank you very much for spending your time with us. Thank you very, very much. I'll just take a few more minutes with your permission. So Hunger Collective, we keep saying this, right? The challenge still remains, but that's okay, right? As long as you sponsors are there, things are going well for us, right? Rajshi Sai, Aslesha ma'am, you still inspire us. Thank you very much, right? It's only thanks to you all, right? this slide I keep saying, but I think all of you all who are there, most of you have almost contributed. Okay, these are our lovely sponsors. Saurabh Agarwal is there straight away. I just spoke to Akshay 15 minutes back, and I'm sure he would have joined by now, right? And doing very well. Gani is always there, always on time. Thank you, Pai Brothers, right? Thank you, right? The Shahs. Thank you. This is all Shahs. Integrated Group, Palm Tax is Shahs. Saili Parekh, right? Rixit, Yogesh Group, Simarpreet. Thank you very much. Prasad, I'm going to Pune on the 8th to meet Prasad now. Anjay ji, moment you say I need help on MSME, he comes to your rescue. Manjrekar's, right, right. Of course, Raj Lubricants in Orissa. Thank you very, very much. What do I say? Pratik, Viral Jain, Krishna, George sir, Paul Moon, Annie George, thank you. Hitenji, thank you very, very much. Right. Thank you very, very much, Sudarshan. Right. Please consider all of them when you want to do business. We're going to come out with a big announcement. Right. Yes, this is our sponsor. Again, I'm repeating this. As I said, every part of his sales is going towards Hunger Collective. So today also I would love to talk about my kid. Right. Thank you very much, Bete. Right. And today is the final time I'm going to talk. So 3 times I promise. All the 3 times I've thanked Shikunj. Right. Thank you very, very much. These are his family members in business. Right. I love kids who respect their elders. At the same time, my request to elders is please give space to the younger generation to perform. My only line to the elders sitting here is nothing grows under a banyan tree. Right. I'm sorry, I'm too small to even comment about this, but it's a request, because I deal with youngsters. So I somehow feel that, just remember this line, all seniors here, nothing can grow under a banyan tree. So yeah, please give them space to grow is all I can request if any seniors are watching. That's it. Practically all the fabrics, and Gani tells me that Shikunj is very, very big, right, and doing extremely well, right. He's also exporting to US. And thanks to Shikunj, we got one more speaker who's going to speak on IPR, right, in the next season. Thank you again. Practically everything in textiles from this group. Okay, India, international, right. This is our journey on Hunger Collective. I'll quickly move on, right. This is Assam. I keep showing Assam because somewhere we have forgotten that the eastern part of India is still a part of our country. Okay, somewhere we have forgotten is what I believe. Okay, yes. Krishna is soliciting distributors again and again. I'm saying this. Please approach him, right. Krishna, he tells me that 3 regions are over now, not 2, 3. Thank you very much, Arunji, for coming in. I hand over to you, right. Over to you, Arun Mohan. All over to you, please.
Thank you so much, sir. I begin with my prayers to you, Reshma ma'am, to the entire Menon family. I remember 2004 very well when my family was going through a bit of a personally challenging time. My father used to work for GIC Mutual Fund back then, and that was a time when the Ketan Parekh scam had happened. Madhavpura Mercantile Bank. I don't know if people on the call would remember. One was Harshad Mehta that probably everybody knows about. But the second one, which was equally damaging to the stock market, was Ketan Parekh. Madhavpura Mercantile Bank had kind of funded him. He put money to buy stocks, and the stocks did not really give value. So when that crisis happened, 2 companies had to bail out the bank. One was Unit Trust of India, and the second one was GIC Mutual Fund, because both these companies were government owned, and the government could not let the market collapse. So what the government did is got these 2 financial institutions to bail out Madhapura Bank. As a result, a lot of people lost their job. My father, who was a vice president in GICMF, also had a tough time. That's the time when I started teaching actually. And Anil Menon sir and the Menon family got known to me. Sir might not know this, but sir gave me the first break into teaching. And for that 1 year, I needed the money also in some way to support my studies. Although my father was in a situation where he could support, but I still, looked at that whatever little money that was coming in as a means to fund my education. So I was supporting myself during that time. Although my father could also have done that, but as a dutiful son, I thought it's my duty to be there, for him and do my part. For that 1 year, I did charge, and the money that Menon sir gave has, funded my education, which sir might also not know. So it's a very special place for me that I'm here with sir and the team today. But after that, year 2004 when I finished my BMS. 2005 I started with Menon. From 2006 onwards, when I did my internship, I'd worked with Hewitt Associates. And from there on, I've been teaching now for the last almost 14, 15 years now. But nowhere have I ever charged even 1 rupee for teaching. I used to teach at Wellinger for 4 years, where I was taking a full subject. But whatever money that I got, I was, God was kind enough to give me the chance to sponsor the education of kids. So whatever money that I was getting from Wellinger, without me getting it, I would, put it forward to the school students or students from TIS. So that's something that, I always am grateful for to Menon sir, Menon classes. They hold a very special place for me. On my LinkedIn profile also, I've mentioned that my first teaching started with Menon. So I'm really proud to be here today in the midst of Menon sir, Reshma ma'am, and every one of us. So with that team, Anil sir, gave me a challenge to say that, look, I've got a young and bright group of students whom I am connected to, I learn with, and I, really am passionate about grooming these business leaders. So would you be able to share something that might be of relevance to them? And as we were kind of discussing topics, something that came into my mind was a book that I read by the famous author called Nicholas Taleb, the person who's written the book Black Swan. He also wrote this book called Anti-Fragile in 2012. So this session is basically a lot of inputs from Nicholas Nassim Taleb, and also some of the other personalities that we know in the industry today. Some of the names you might already be aware, but some hopefully, I'm able to bring in some new learnings for you over the next 45 minutes. So what I'll try to do is I'll try to share some interesting insights over the next 40 minutes. Hopefully you learn something that you have not learned in the past or not known in the past. And then we could probably have 20 minutes of Q&A to make sure that your participation is acknowledged and your thoughts are getting a proper response. I don't claim to know all the answers, but with whatever limited knowledge I have, I'd love to share my insights or thoughts with you, and we could learn together through the process. So that's the caveat. I just want to make sure that everybody is attending this session, with full concentration here. A lot of times on such calls, you on the call and then you get disturbed or get pulled into something else. So quick question that I'll request you to answer: do you know who has the most subscriptions on YouTube? If you know the answer, I'll request you to put it into the chat box. And this is also linked to the subject that we're going to talk about today. But if you have any answers to this, I would encourage you to put that in the chat.
My Akshay Bete says P series. Uh, Dr. Vinod Nair says BTS. Saurabh Agarwal ji says a Russian YouTuber.
Okay. Okay. Some motivational channel, PewDiePie. PewDiePie is number 2. So PewDiePie is number 2. Number 1, you'll be surprised, is actually an Indian brand. Any guesses now? I'm kind of bringing you closer. PewDiePie is number 2. PewDiePie has a little lesser number of subscribers as compared to the number 1. Saurabh Agarwal ji has got the answer right. I saw earlier that Akshay also got the right answer, and maybe before that, Shreyans Bhandari also. So thanks all of you. The answer is actually, thanks Mehul, thanks Pratik, all of you have got the right answer. The answer is T series. So YouTube, as you know, is a global channel. YouTube has people from around the world, and I was surprised about this myself, that a company that originally was founded by Gulshan Kumar, who used to sell fruit juice on the streets of Delhi. He started by selling pirated music, and after that, the rest is history. Unfortunately, Gulshan Kumar is no more, but his brother Kishan Kumar is running this business called T Series. The T stands for Trishul. Is one of the biggest YouTube content provider in the world. They've got about 150 million subscribers. And while the world is talking about social media and world is talking about influencers, subscribers, active user base, a very small company which had its beginnings on the streets of Delhi by an entrepreneur who was selling fruit juice is today ruling this world. I'll come to this a little more. I think Gani is making a very important point that we have 1/6 of the world's population in India. So that's obviously a good point that favors us. But what I want all of us on this call also to remember is that the power that India holds today is also enormous. Today, China, when India decided to ban 183 apps, is shaking in their pants because they know that companies like Tencent, Alibaba, and others will not be able to suffer the economic impact that India can inflict upon them by putting these bans. You all know what happened in Galwan last month, or beginning of this month. We are seeing some tensions in some parts on the northeast border. Anil sir mentioned about Assam, but there is some conflict that's happening, as you might be aware. But I love the video that Anil sir shared. It's not about the size of the dog in the fight. If you look at China's economic might today, China might be much more stronger than us. But what is important is the size of the fight in the dog. And I'm not referring to India as a dog. India is my motherland, and I'm a proud son of Mother India. But India today has managed to put a economic superpower like China in its place because of the fact that we've acted in a very nice, concentrated, and effective manner. We've choked them where it hurts the most. We've hit them economically. In the past, when we were competing with China, the world would take a view from the sides and say, hey, stop fighting, don't get involved. But today, the world is standing strongly with India and speaking in one voice. You see the kind of diplomatic wins that India has made. I'm not trying to support any political party, but as a Indian who's not residing in India, if I look at the kind of political relationships that India has made over the last few years, it's phenomenal. Even in a country like US, where earlier people would not appreciate the Indian leadership as much, today the Indian leadership is looked at as a political force to reckon with. It's a moment of pride for India to see that an economic superpower like China is also not able to hit India as they would like. So I just wanted to start with a little bit of positive note about how Indian companies are making an impact. And as I go through this session, I have decided to actually include some examples from India as well, so that you can see the power of the country that we all belong to. So what I'm going to talk about today is just two concepts. The first concept is going to be the three circles of life. Anil sir made a very nice statement, which I was not coordinating this with Anil sir, but sir already made this statement, and it really ties in well. So they say that the guru knows everything. You don't have to tell the guru anything. Anil sir and I had not synced up about my slides, but what I'm going to talk about today is a lot about what Anil sir actually shared in the setup to this call. I'm going to talk about the three circles of life. And for you as entrepreneurs, how do you take charge of your life, your business, your team, and how do you become successful? That's the theme of this session that we are going to share together in the next 30-35 minutes from now. And the first topic that I want to introduce to you is the circles of life. There are three circles of life, irrespective of which part of the world you are in. Whether you are in India, you are in USA, you're in China, whichever part of the world, these three circles of life will be around you at any given point in time. The first circle that I want to introduce to you is the gray circle, which I called a circle of concern. Now, what is a circle of concern? Circle of concern carries those things that impact you, but you can't do anything about it. For example, rain. If you are staying in Mumbai and you've been experiencing rain for the last 3 days, you cannot do anything about stopping that rain or starting that rain. As an individual, what's in your control is to probably stay home or take an umbrella when you go out. But you cannot control rain. Similarly, world peace. Today, no matter how hard you try to influence, you might not be able to stop the situation on the border because that's something that's beyond your control. So, the first thing that I want to introduce to you is called a circle of concern. The circle of concern contains those things that impact you, but you don't have any influence about them. why I call it as a circle of concern is because these things have an impact on you, your well-being, and your future. So, if suppose today you are an exporter who's got a big market in China, when the government takes a call to ban apps, there might be retaliatory tariffs or retaliatory sanctions that might be imposed on Indian exporters as well. So there might be an impact that might hit you, but unfortunately or fortunately, you can't do much about it. So that's the first circle, the circle of concern. The second circle is what I call the blue circle. Now this is circle of influence. Now what is circle of influence and how is it different from circle of concern? If you look at the words here, you'll quickly realize that circle of influence are those things where you have some control and luck has some control. So these are things where you play your part and luck plays its part. You can influence this. The more you work hard, the more you can influence this. But these are not things that are complete. Sometimes these things might work with you or work against you. You've given a commitment like say Salman Khan or Shah Rukh Khan does that. मैंने एक बार बोल दिया तो फिर मैं करके ही छोड़ता हूँ. You make a commitment to reach somewhere at 8 o'clock. You leave home at 6 o'clock in the morning. You know that the normal travel time is an hour. But when you go out, imagine there's a big political leader who's taking out a dharna or some session, and you get jammed for almost 2 hours. Now you gave a commitment to reach a place by 10 o'clock. You left at 8 o'clock because you knew that it takes 1 hour to reach the place. But the whole political dharna or that band what was there was beyond your control. So you tried your part, but something else tried or played their part, and unfortunately you couldn't meet your commitment. So this zone, the second zone, is a circle of influence where things are present which you can control or influence, but only to a certain degree. Some part of this circle is going to be influenced by factors outside your control. And the third part is the circle of control. This is what Anil sir said in the opening slot, that I don't get worried about what's happening outside. I met a family, but I took the precautions to wear my mask, protect myself. But ultimately, I have to do what I have to do. I can control my thoughts. I can control my words. I can control my actions. I can control my mood. I cannot control the world. I cannot be in that car and say, hey, politician, please go away. I need to reach my place at 10 o'clock. But what I can possibly do is call the person and say, hey, look, I'm stuck here. I started at 6. My intent was to reach by 8, but I couldn't get there because of this situation. Maybe you send a picture to prove the point that you are sitting in the car and you're helpless. That way, you can at least respond to that situation versus reacting. The difference between reacting and responding is very slight, but makes a big impact. Reacting is what you do when you respond in a knee-jerk manner. Like there's a dharna, there's a political, thing going on. You are in the car, you start, punching the dashboard, or you ride the car recklessly. You might invite an accident. So that's what is called as reacting. Generally, people who are forward looking don't react to situations, they respond. And what's the difference between reaction and respond? In response, you think and then act. In reaction, you directly react. When you see something, you react to it. But when you choose your response, you are choosing you are going through a mindset and thinking through the outcomes and then deciding the course of action. So what I want to influence or what I want to share with you, all the leaders on the call today, is you can't do anything about COVID. You can't do anything about the fact that India is putting some trade barriers with China. But what you can possibly do is look for other markets. If suppose you feel that China is not going to support our stocks anymore, can you look at Middle East? Middle East is warming up to us in a very nice way. If you look at Israel, Israel has signed a MOU with United Arab Emirates, which is a very big breakthrough of the Muslim world and the Israeli countries coming together. Maybe USA has had a role to play, but other countries are also now trying to support Israel in a small way. You as an entrepreneur might want to look at Middle East because the Middle Eastern rulers have always had a favorable disposition towards India. A lot of our Indians are working in these countries in the Middle East. And the brothers and sisters from the Middle East, the rulers of Middle East are very rightful and fair leaders. So you might have one window shut, which is say China, but you could look at other countries. You could look at Southeast, you could look at Far East, you could look at Africa, which is a gold mine of opportunity. I remember the story of a shoe seller where two people who were selling shoes were sent to Africa. Both people landed on an evening. The next day morning, one person sent out a mail saying that, hey, nobody here wears shoes. Please send me a ticket. I'm coming back. The second person also sent an email and he said, look, send me all the shoes that you have. Nobody wears shoes and we can sell everything that we have because nobody wears shoes here. Both people saw the same fact that there are people not wearing shoes. The pessimist saw that as a missed opportunity and wrote back saying that, look, nobody wears shoes, I'm coming back. But the optimist saw the opportunity and said, look, there are 100,000 people who need shoes. Send me all the shoes that you have. That's the difference that you can make through your thoughts, through your words, through your actions. Somebody once told me this in school, and it kind of stayed with me all the way along, that if you sow your thoughts, you will reap an action. If you sow an action, you will reap a habit. If you sow a habit, you will reap a character. And if you sow a character, a good character, you will reap your destiny. So it all begins with thoughts. It starts with the mind that we have inside. If any of you have gone to Shabrimala, which is a very famous temple down south, there's a very nice saying outside that says Tattvamasi. Just outside the Sanctum Sanctorum, there's a very nice saying called Tattvamasi, that thou art, which is a very nice way of showing people that all the powers of the universe lie in your brain. Your brain and your mind, if you wake up and act towards that dream to achieve that dream, nothing can stop you from achieving that. So that's what I wanted to share with you through this picture, the three circles of life: the circle of concern, the circle of influence, and the circle of control. Now, the bad thing or the good thing about how we operate in today's world: 70% of our time and energy we are spending in the circle of concern. 20% of our time and energy we are spending in the circle of influence. And only 10% of our time is what we spend in circle of control. Don't believe me for what I'm saying, but look at your day. Half of the time you are on WhatsApp or you are on some other social media, and then you're talking to people, "Arey yaar, yahan pe ye ho gaya, wahan pe ye ho gaya," and you just keep discussing that. You keep worrying about things that don't truly impact you, or they might impact you in some way, but you can't do anything about it. Unfortunately, most of the people in today's world are spending 70% of their time or energy in this circle. 20% is going in that blue circle, and 10% is going towards things that you can control. If you truly want to be successful, you have to flip this proportion of time and energy being spent the other way around. 70% of time should be in that zone where you can control things and you can influence your destiny. 20% should be in that circle of influence. Things that you do your part and luck has to do its part. The more you do your part, the more luck will do its part. And 10%, you have to be aware of what's happening around you. If you are not aware, you cannot be in an island today, because we are living in a hyper-connected world. We will not be able to perform in isolation. I see the kind of notes, sharings that happen on the Telegram group that Anil sir has started. There's so much help available out there. But if you are prepared to ask and if you know where to go. So having information is very, very critical. Therefore, my first sharing for today is to help you realize the three circles of our life, which is circle of concern, circle of influence, and circle of control. If you want to be successful, the first mantra that I would like to give as a part of Menon Mantras today is change the way you look at these circles. Spend 70% of time in that smallest circle that you see in the center, circle of control. Do things that are in your control. Control your thought. मैं पॉजिटिव चीजें ही देखूंगा. A lot of times our parents tell us satsang में जाओ, satsang में जाओ. The reason for calling Satsang is not just going and chanting the name of Lord. Chanting the name of Lord is important, but what is also equally important is the company of good people. Sat logo ka sang. So try to be in the company of good people, channelize your thoughts in the right direction, and possibilities are that you will be leading yourself away to success. But in the same, on the contrary, on the other side of the same coin, if you spend time with people who are worried, who spend 80% of their time thinking about negative things, about what can go wrong, chances are your thoughts will also get influenced the same way. A psychologist has once said this, that you are the average of the 5 people that you spend most time with in a waking day. Now, I don't know how true this is, but what I have seen for huge impact on the kind of person that you ultimately turn out to be. Take the example of Hindi movies, right? You've seen two kids getting separated in a mela. One goes to a daku, one goes to a hero, and they come back after many years. Now that's a classic example of how the surroundings around us influence us, our thinking, our behavior, and our destiny. Remember the saying that I told you: sow a thought, reap an action. Sow an action, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, reap your destiny. So it all begins with thought. And I want you to start focusing on what are you thinking on, how are you thinking for yourself, for your business, for the people that are associated with you. And that can possibly make the difference. It starts with a thought and has to be backed up with action. The reason that I say this is thoughts without action is of no use, and action without thought can cause great damage. The right mix is thoughts and action. If you go to Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Song of the Lord, the 700th verse in chapter 18 talks about Yatra Yogeshwara Krishno, Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara, Tatta Shri Vijayo Bhuti Dhruva, Nitir Matir Mamaha. It's a saying by Sanjaya which is quoted to Dhritarashtra. When the whole war is over, the last word which is told by the charioteer who has the divine vision to see the battle of Kurukshetra sitting in the royal palace. He says that wherever there is Krishna, the Anil sir's name is Krishna, my son's name is Sri Ram. But wherever there is Krishna, which is symbolic of thought, if you look at Mahabharata, Krishna never even raised one bow. Krishna was only a charioteer, and he had promised that he will not use any arm in that fight. Arjuna was the person who was using the bow, and Krishna was guiding him. The last verse of Bhagavad Gita is very significant. It says Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, which is Lord Krishna, symbolic of vision or thought, and Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara, symbolic of action, which is Arjuna. When there is good action and good thought, that combination is what leads to success. The last line says Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhuti Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama. There is certain to be opulence, victory, and prosperity. This is my firm conviction. It's a message that we have to kind of internalize to see how can we create success. So this is something that I want to leave with you on this slide. And as I transition to the next slide, I want to give you some real life examples of how these thoughts can be converted into powerful actions. That is by developing something that Nicholas Taleb actually articulated as anti-fragile. That's the second part of our story today. So what is anti-fragile? Let me take you to Greece. As some of you might know, Greece is the oldest democracy known to mankind, and Greece had some really great examples of mythological creatures and stories that have huge lessons for us. So from India and Mahabharata, let me take you to Europe and Greece. The first story that I would like to share with you today is of this legendary king who's sitting under the sword. You can see that on the screen. It's called the Damosel's Choice in English language. Damosel is cursed with a sword that hangs around his neck. If he moves, he'll be killed. If he doesn't move, he'll still be killed. So it's like a Hobson's choice. It's a choice which ultimately leads you nowhere. It's a lose-lose situation. In that 70% zone of the circle of concern, then we would be like people who are sitting under that sword. बाहर जाऊं कि नहीं जाऊं, बिहारी फैमिली को मिलूं नहीं मिलूं, मास्क पहनूं नहीं पहनूं, जाएगा तो क्या होगा? These problems keep coming to our mind. But if you are truly clear in your thoughts, if you are courageous to take action, then you will still do what you have to do, because we are here to live our life. If destiny has something that's been marked for us, nobody can stop it. होने को कौन टाल सकता है? So the first mindset is the fragile mindset, which we should definitely avoid. The second mindset is what we call the resilient mindset. Resilient mindset is, no matter what happens, you are burned down to ashes, but you come back. The metaphor that one can associate with the resilient mindset is that of a phoenix bird. The phoenix bird is a mythological bird which, when it grows old, burns itself into ashes and then comes back again, full of health and strength. That's the second metaphor. Now, some of us will be resilient. Every time we break, we come up stronger. But that also is not enough in the COVID world, because the COVID world is a challenge that none of us have seen in our lifetime. If you ask your grandparents, some of them must have seen the World War, but that was also not as bad as the COVID situation. Why do I say that? In April, when COVID was at its peak, one third of world's population was under a lockdown. India was obviously contributing to that in a big way. We have one sixth of world's population, but significant other countries like USA, for example, many parts of Southeast Asia, Indonesia, for example, was under a lockdown. Indonesia has quite a few people, 5% of world's population. So one third of world's population was under a lockdown. This situation has never been experienced by anybody in the world. Now, in this kind of a world, a resilient mindset is not enough, because nobody knows where is the bottom of this pyramid, where is the bottom of this hole. Will the COVID situation end in 2020? Will it go to 2021? Will the vaccine come? After the vaccine comes, will there be other kinds of viruses which will come into the world? Nobody knows. So, what will possibly help us in a world like this is the anti fragile mindset. What is the anti fragile mindset? Anti fragile mindset is a mindset that is represented by the metaphor of a Greek creature called Hydra. What does a Hydra do? A Hydra is a dragon which, when its head is cut, two heads come out in place of one. So that's the Hydra, which is a metaphor that I would like to associate with anti fragile mindset. And we don't have to go far to see this mindset. I used to stay in Sindhi colony, Mulund colony as they call, and I was talking to a friend of mine who is still staying in that building, Mulund Darshan. He told me about the story of a Bhelpuri wala. This Bhelpuri wala would come and set up a stall outside the building, sell about 200 Bhelpuris every day, make his profit, about 4,000 rupees, go back and run his family. When the lockdown happened, for almost 2 months, he could not sell Bhelpuris anymore because government did not allow. The cops were very serious. They said nobody can come out. So for 2 months, this guy was nowhere to be seen. After 2 months, when this guy came back, he had the Bhelpuri stall, plus he had a stall on the side which was selling cloth masks. And his cloth masks were selling like, hot cakes. As soon as this person came back from the lockdown, his business actually doubled, because that 2 month period where everybody else was whining and thinking of how the challenge is, the Bhelpuri wala actually read probably a WhatsApp message or whatever from whichever part of the world that cloth masks might be in high demand. He had a few tailors who were out of job. He got his family members together, his neighbors, and created cloth masks, different colors, different shapes, different sizes, started selling it for 50 rupees per mask. As soon as he came back, the next 2 months, he made a killing. All the masks were selling. People started giving him customized masks. Somebody wanted political parties, started coming and saying, give a political party logo. We want to create masks. And he created a new business. So after COVID, before COVID, he had one business, Bhelpuri. But today, after COVID, he has two businesses, Bhelpuri and the mask business. That is the anti fragile mindset that I'm talking about. As businessmen, we all have the opportunity to look at this problem and say what we can't do. But as businessmen, we also have the opportunity to look at this problem and say what we can do. And this is not theoretical. I'll again share an example from cricket, because cricket is something that probably unites many of us as Indians. These are three examples of cricketers. When I analyzed, I found them to be representing these characteristics. The first person on the left is from the same state that Anil sir and me trace our roots to. Our dear friend Srishant, great cricketer, great talent. When he was coming up, everybody thought he's going to be the next Kapil Dev. In this space or this pose of his, you can see a Kapil Dev like streak in him. But unfortunately, he was what he was, and his career came to a tragic end. That is a fragile mindset in my mind. The second is the resilient mindset, which is the helicopter, shot champion MS Dhoni. MS Dhoni is ice cool. No matter what the problem is, he will remain ice cool. He will never get stressed. He will go back to zero and come back to becoming a hero. And that's why I call him as a resilient mindset. But whom I call as anti-fragile in context of today's discussion is somebody like Virat Kohli. If you look at Virat Kohli on the field, every time you put a problem, he raises into two, roars back and fights. Dhoni is cool, but Kohli is hot. And Kohli is the kind of captain that's probably going to give India its best version in history when cricketing game starts again. So think about this. And this is not just limited to theory and cricket. This is very much applicable to business as well. I hope all of you know this person that we are seeing on the screen on the left. That's Brian Chesky. He is the founder of Airbnb. We know Ritesh Agarwal, who's founded Oyo from India. Unfortunately, Oyo is going through a very tough time now. A lot of people working with Oyo have lost their jobs. But Airbnb, on the other side, has actually pivoted by displaying the anti-fragile mindset. Airbnb was valued at $30 billion before COVID, and they were going to go the IPO route. COVID happened, the business fell flat. But what did Brian Chesky do? He started selling online experiences. For $10, you can attend an online yoga class. For $50, you can attend a session where somebody is, poodling a doodle, and then you can start participating in that. Today, he's selling experiences online, and his business is still valued at $18 billion. He is planning to go live with the IPO later this month or next month. Now that is the anti-fragile BNB and said that Brian Chesky has no chance. The 30 billion company will become zero. But Brian Chesky took that situation, studied it well, and when tomorrow the world starts traveling, he might still sell the Airbnb franchise. But today he's doing what it takes to keep his business afloat. I will send this PPT to all of you on the Telegram group. All the slides that I'm sharing has a link below on the bottom right. These links will give you some interesting reading materials or videos which can give you more insights about whatever I'm talking. So this is a video that's between Simon Sinek and Brian Chesky, which will really give you some insights about how Brian Chesky pivoted his business in these tough times, a business that everybody thought will collapse, but pivoted it into a different space and is operating in a very comfortable way. $18 billion is the valuation of his company. Before COVID, it was $30 billion. Now, that kind of impact, to be sustaining it across the world, is something phenomenal. And that's why I feature him number one in my example story. Number two is an example closer home. Nobody needs an introduction to this fatherly figure that we see on the left. Guru of Indian industry, Sri Dhirubhai Ambani. I would have loved to show an example of Ratan Tata because personally I associate more with Tatas and their way of doing good for the society. But I cannot avoid sharing the example of Sri Dhirubhai Ambani, a petrol pump attendant in Aden, a first generation entrepreneur, but the most successful businessman in India in commercial terms. If you look at what Mr. Mukesh Ambani did during the COVID times, you will be surprised. I don't know how many of you observed this or it came to your notice, but Mukesh Ambani got the biggest investments into his Geo venture during this COVID period. He got the Abu Dhabi businesses to invest in him. Facebook invested in him and his business, and Geo is going on all guns today. And if you really look at what Mukesh Ambani has been able to do in the last few years after he took over the reign of the business is he's literally got into everything and he's become everywhere. He's become, everything everywhere. Omnibus, like omnipresent kind of a space that he's operating in. And what you look on the right is, again, I got this on the WhatsApp Wonderland. Somebody forwarded this as a WhatsApp message. But look at the kind of enterprises that, Mukesh Ambani is collected during this tough times. Very recently, I think he got some stake in the Future Group as well with Mr. Kishore Biani. I believe there's been some deal that's happened. But this image is maybe from 2 3 weeks back. But look at the kind of impact that Mukesh Ambani was able to create. When everybody was crying about their business not doing well, oil and gas tanking, at one point in time, I remember getting a WhatsApp image of ships around different countries with no takers. The crude oil price went below $1 at one point of time during the COVID crisis, below $1. So you had to actually pay money to store the crude oil because nobody was taking oil. The flights were not flying, cars were not on the road, and nobody was traveling. So oil price fell below $1 during the COVID crisis. So Reliance Industries, the flagship business of oil, had no takers. But what did Mukesh Ambani do? He quickly pivoted into other areas. Music, online payment, GeoMeet. When the world was talking about Zoom, GeoMeet launched itself very quickly. And you see what's happening to that business now. That's the mindset which I categorize as the anti-fragile mindset. And the third person I want to share with you today is a person called Mr. Jayesh Parekh. Now, what you see on the right are all companies that Jayesh Parekh has invested in. Jayesh Parekh is a very ordinary Marwadi, Gujarati businessman from Calcutta. He comes from very humble background, first generation entrepreneur. The most famous thing that you might know Jayesh Parekh ji about is a Sony Entertainment Television. I have got a very interesting video. If nothing else could be of value from this session today, what I would request you is to just see that video and only go to the section by Mr. Jayesh Parekh. On the bottom right, you'll see a video by Mr. Jayesh Parekh. It's a video which has three entrepreneurs talking about their experiences. It's from the Indus Entrepreneurs. The TIE group has sponsored this video. It's a very powerful video. And I did not know about Jayesh Parekh ji until 3 months back. But the more I read about him, the more I get inspired by him. Jayesh Parekh went from zero to hero in no time. He is the person credited with getting IBM into India. He quit IBM at a time when everybody asked why. And he started a business from scratch. And he faced many failures. He's in his speech, you'll see if you access that video, that he gave up everything, no savings at all. He was completely bankrupt at one point in time. But his conviction and his clairvoyance to look at opportunities and his belief in himself actually propelled him to this successful stage that he is in today. Very inspirational figure. Maybe all of us have heard about Brian Chesky and Dhirubhai Ambani ji, but Jayesh Parekh is a very interesting businessman whose success story is something that can inspire us as entrepreneurs around the world. So these are two things that I wanted to share with you, the three circles of life and three stories. I hope this gives you a perspective on the anti-fragile mindset. It really starts with our belief. If we look for problems, we'll see hundreds of problems. But if we look for solutions, we'll also find hundreds of them. The choice lies with us. So with that, I will end today's session, not without paying a tribute to Anil sir. Like I said at the beginning of this session, Anil sir and Menon classes gave me the first platform to come and teach. And maybe I was a adhyapak at that time, but Anil sir is a guru, and you can see the differences of all the teachers, and the kind of teachers that we have. This is only available in India. In the foreign world, everybody is a teacher. But our the wise people from India, our elders, very beautifully classified the different kind of teachers. The person who imparts information is Adhyapak. You read a book, you tell something. The teacher who gives knowledge along with information is a Upadhyay. The teacher who teaches skills is an Acharya. A A person who's bestowed with deep insights is a Pandit. Pillar of darkness is the one who gives you wisdom. I told you in the beginning that satsang is important. Company of good people is important. I now tell you at the end, a good guru is also very, very important to find success in life. There's a very famous Kabir, doha, which says, "Guru Gobind Singh diyo khade kake lago paye, Baliari Guru apno Govind diyo bataye," which says that Govind, which is the Lord Himself, when Kabir Das ji asked that who should I fall the feet of, should I first prostrate in front of the Guru, or should I first pay my obeisance to the God? Then the God said that first go in front of the Guru, because the true Guru will help you identify the true God. So knowing a Guru is very, very important, because Guru imparts wisdom, makes you wise, makes you viveki. So find a good Guru. I have found one. I'm seeing one on the screen today in the form of Anil sir. So I stop my piece here. Thank you very much, Anil sir. And thank you very much, participants. I hope I was able to share some thoughts, ideas, which will trigger some actions on your side and lead you to greater success. You are the future of our country. The politicians can only dispense or distribute wealth, but you are creating wealth. And only if you create wealth can you distribute. Hunger Initiative is a wonderful initiative that Sir is associated with, and all of you are supporting it in a big way. Truly, that is what is the crowning glory of entrepreneurs. It's not just about accumulating wealth and creating wealth. All of us came without anything and will go without anything. What we have is going to remain in this world. But if you impact people well, then your name will be known for many generations to come. And that karma, the prarabdha that you collect for the future, will lead you into a good space. So with that, I conclude my thoughts. And if there are any questions, I'll try to answer them. Thank you so much, Anil sir. Thank you so much, team.
Thank you, Arun Mone. If you could see, the first feedback has come from Ganiji, right? And he just puts one word, super. So before we take questions, right, just some very important summary of this session. T Series is one of the most widely watched channel, or rather is the most widely watched channel. Power that India wields today is enormous. Uh, Unfortunately, many of us focus on circle of concern. It is better to move from circle of concern to circle of control, right? Circle of influence is also good, right? But then there is some element of luck also. It's always better to go into circle of control. I agree, Saurabh. Very calm and insightful. That's exactly what I was just telling my wife. Very calm, and delivered with such, if I could use the word serenity, right? Such a nice style of explaining. Reminded me of Nilesh Shah of Kotak, right? So Nilesh Shah is a very big fund manager, right? So the second case study was mentioned was about two shoe sellers exploring a place where the people did not have any shoes. So here I just want to say something here, and it's on a jovial tone. It's a wonderful example of how pessimism and optimism really matter, right? And if you are optimistic, you only see the right things. If you are pessimistic, you see only negative things. So satsang is important. Be in the company of good people, right, who will guide you, especially in challenging times. Uh, yes, then this was a wonderful point. Sow thoughts, reap action, sow action, reap habits, sow habit, reap character, reap destiny. All right, and I had to quickly jot it down. I hope I got the order right. And be in the company of good people. You are the average of 5 persons that you spend most of the time with. Krishna is Sri Krishna, Bhagwan is associated with vision. Arjuna is association with action, right? Good action and good vision leads to success. Be anti-fragile. Wonderful, wonderful slides, right? So right, Arun sir talked about fragile mindset. Then he talked about resilient mindset. Finally, he said it's always good to have anti-fragile mindset. Okay, of course, you may have different cricketers in mind, but the idea here was try. I like that Birpuriwala example today, who came back and came back strongly. So the Hydra example, you cut one head, two comes in. Birpuriwala actually, when he came back, he had two stalls, one selling Birpuri and the other with masks. Fantastic example of day-to-day life, right? Airbnb again, Oyo is in trouble, but Airbnb again pivoted. That is a key word here. Pivoted and then had the anti-fragile mindset. $80 billion is the valuation, right? So actually, during challenging times, it's the mindset that really matters. Reliance is another example, controversial, but yes, right. Reliance is definitely the example, right, which we can see around us. Yes, we can say he influences government, etc. But let's get this very clear that yes, he did it, right? Mukesh Ambani, right, made it a zero debt company, and a big learning for me today. Mr. Jayesh Parekh. I just realized that I would like to read about this gentleman, right? It was the biggest learning for me today because I'm from the field of finance. I would like to look at him and how he has done this entire thing. Right. Mona, just can I have some questions, dear colleagues? Because I told Arun sir that please take 45 minutes. We will devote the next 15-20 minutes for questions. Thank you for the change of thought, Arun sir. Loved all the examples. Karamveer Ahuja, a regular participant and from SPJ. So here is the first question. But before I take the first question, Nisha Manjrekar ji, bete, God bless you, Nisha, bete. Uh, I came across, Arun Sukumar Kaimal ji. My God, the entire name has got very, very humble. He's spreading knowledge selflessly. Very, very grateful, soul enriching. I get a feeling that's right. Your LinkedIn profile, Nisha ji, has had a look at. Arun, just a couple of things that I want to ask you before my personal question, right? Say it's easy for me to say change of mindset and keep moving towards that. What do you think? And this is totally out of context. I'm just speaking because there's some solutions I'm looking forward. So whenever I go down, and I hope I'm not offending anybody here, I somehow feel that somewhere down the line, it's easy for me to say this, do your karma and leave the fruits of, don't look at the fruits. But many a times, many of my students work very, very hard and suddenly they don't get the results that they desire. And I know as a mentor, I can say, hey, come on, Arun, yeah, you do your work and leave it to God. But I personally, I sometimes get disappointed. So what do you think, we should do in such circumstances? I know Bhagavad Gita says, put in all your efforts, but how do you practice such calmness? Right? Because I can see you're very much detached from the results. I remember when you were in TIS also, you told me that, you were practicing that as an habit. Would you like to give some advice to the young colleagues here?
Sure. So I'll tell you a story from Finland, sir. If it's okay, I can take 2 minutes to tell a quick story, and then I'll come to this question. Will that be okay?
Please, please, please.
So, sir, in Finland, Finland is typically, at war with Russia, and they don't have very friendly neighbors. Like, I don't remember now, but the neighbor for Finland is either Norway or one of those countries. They have a constant conflict. So I was in Finland. I was talking to a person, and he told me this story, which kind of remained with me. So he said this is a story of a farmer, who had who had a lot of good fortune. He had a big farm. One fine day, it snowed before the right time, and all his produce went out. So suddenly all the villagers came and said, "Arey, itna bura ho gaya." Everything was bad. He said, "Maybe good, maybe bad. I don't know." So that happened. The next day, a group of ponies, a group of horses, just sauntered into his farm, and nobody had that ponies. Nobody owned it. So he got 4 ponies which he could use to again, clear the snow and start plowing again. So this time the villagers came and said, "Hey, wow, tumhara to naseeb khul gaya. You got four ponies. Now you can sow much more. Your work will, become better." So he said, "Maybe good, maybe bad. I don't know." Few days, he took the snow out. He started plowing seeds. So a good crop came. So suddenly people said, "Arey wow, itna tumhara to bahut acha ho gaya." So again he said, "Maybe good, maybe bad." One day his young son, he was riding the pony to plowing the field. One pony got some mad disease and the pony started jumping. This son fell down, broke his arm, had a fracture. This time again people came and said, "Arey, bahut bura hua." So he said, "Maybe good, maybe bad." Few days later, the war broke out between Finland and Norway. So all able-bodied men had to go to the army and then, be part of the war. Few of them returned back. So again, villagers came and said, "Arey, wow, tumhara to bach gaya, tumhara bete ka hi." So the world is like that. This story goes on for a long time. But the world is like that. What people see is something good or something bad, but they don't look at the entire life. As an individual, what I have always believed is that maro so jave nahi, and jave so maro nahi. So if you as an individual can practice that nishkama karma, where you do your part and then let the other part go, then there'll be no conflict. As Buddha said, Gautam Buddha ji said that the root cause of all problems is expectation. Like today, I'm investing in stocks just before coming. I'm sure all of you know that the stock market in US is now at a high, all-time high. Nasdaq is reached record levels. On March, the third week of March, it took a big crash. The market's corrected by about 40%, but then now it's kind of recovered again. So I always invest in stocks. I put the money and then I come out thinking that jo hoga wo dekha jayega. But you have to keep detached a little bit. Same is the case with life. What gives us sorrow? Our effort is already the results are the future. We are living in the between or in the middle, which is the present. Now, we can always keep thinking about what was there and could have been asked but did not come, or what can come in the future and be worried about it. But nothing is within our control. The more you practice nishkama karma, the more you practice the spiritual side. I'm not saying become gurujis or sadhus or sons, but if you can practice spirituality in some way, if you can practice gratitude, if you can practice giving, your ability to take that hits and not get bogged down goes up significantly. So if you as an individual have been exposed to a series of negative things, like I lost my grandmother last Friday. She was 86. She was in Delhi. She was in Mumbai. Neither my father nor I could be with her. We have pleasant memories of our grandmother, and we lost her in a very bad situation. She fell down, and we lost her. Now my father and I thought about it. We can't go there. What can we do? So we decided that look, what will help the legacy of our grandmother survive? So we thought, let's do something for girl children from Kerala who can then be supported with studies. So we can take some action. We can either be grieving, be sad about the loss and keep crying about it, or do something for that wonderful lady who's responsible for me and my father being in the world today. So it's really about us. And I feel that we as individuals, if we can shift that focus, move that compass towards greater things, then we'll be in a better place. Because unfortunately or fortunately, things will keep happening. Tomorrow, something wrong might happen to us. Tomorrow, something bad might happen to us. We don't control it. What we can control is us, our thoughts, our actions. Again, I go back to that to say, and again, I don't want to quote Bhagavad Gita too much, but just one more, quote from Bhagavad Gita. Everybody knows karmanyeva dikaraste. That is, commonly known. But another quote which is equally powerful is Sukha Dukhe Same Krutva Labha Labho Jayab Jayo Yatha Yudhaya Yudhascha Naivam Papa Mavapyasi, which says that you have to be constant in Sukha and Dukkha, in happiness and sadness, in sorrow and joy, in profit and loss, because you will not be able to control everything every time. Like this, right? I was in Dubai. I have some very good friends from the region. They used to say a very nice thing. These are very rich Arab businessmen. कि अपने ऊंट को बांधो और बाद में अल्लाह पर तवक्कुल रखो. What you can do in your hand is to tie the camel. When you're going in a caravan in the night, you can only tie your camel. Then Allah Ta'ala has to really bless us to see that the camel is there when you wake up tomorrow morning. Because the desert is full of plunderers. Somebody might come, kill the camel, steal it. You can't do much about it. What you can do is to keep control of yourself. So ऊंट को बांधो और बाद में अल्लाह पे तवक्कुल रखो. That's very, very important. Sorry for the long answer, but just my thoughts.
Fantastic, fantastic. I'm sure you're going to get some chats here. Ganeji is asking a good question. As a HR person, how do you help manage and handle the COVID pressure on the top management of workforce and the company's revenue demands?
Sure. I think Ganeji, this is a challenging question because I'm an employee. If I was a business person, I might have dealt with the situation differently. but I am an employee, so I have to carry out the agenda for the business. The markets have been hit very badly. There are job cuts happening, but what you do as a HR person is to use that as a last option. The economic challenges are like a cancer. Now, there are different stages of cancer, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. Depending on how badly your business has been impacted, you might have to carry out a series of actions. If your business has been impacted moderately, you might tell everybody to take a salary cut, senior leaders to take a pay cut, so that there's a sense of proportion. People don't feel that it's being done irrationally. But if your business has been very badly impacted, like suppose if you are running a tourism business, you are an online booking agency, and nobody's traveling at all, you might have to then exercise the anti-fragile mindset to start something new. Maybe you start selling online coaching, counseling, you start selling experiences, I don't know. But as an HR person, what I personally do is I extend myself to that individual and connect to him as a human being. I don't look at him as a resource. I look at him as a human. And that's the difference in HR. Some people look at humans and take care of people. Some people take care of them as resources. The difference is very stark. If you are taking care of a resource, you behave differently. But if you're taking care of humans, you behave differently. I would strongly encourage everybody in HR to look at humans first and not resources. That's very, very critical. In my role, I've been mentoring a lot of people, I've been coaching a lot of people in my free time, just to kind of help them through this tough time. How do you really engage these people? How do you be fair to them? How do you be transparent to them? Is extremely important. It is a tough time. Some tough decisions have to be taken, but you can take those tough decisions in a respectful manner, not in a way that makes people feel bad. If you are honest, if you are transparent, then people also are logical. People also come forward to find a solution together, and maybe the ideas that they would contribute, which might help you solve the problem. So I think in such times, being connected to people, having your ear to the ground, talking to people, co-creating solutions is very, very critical. It is a very difficult time, but how you behave in this time will really define you post the crisis. Post the crisis, there'll be only two kind of companies: companies that took care of their people and companies that didn't. And people will take note of this. If you are a businessman today, if you are sincere, if you are honest, and you share your problems with the team, take care of them and share the pain, then they will stay with you. But in the future, then the corollary is you'll also have to share the gain with them because they've taken the hit. It can't be one sided. So, thinking of ways like that could be a possibility to overcome this solution. I hope I was able to give you an answer to the question that you were looking at, but this is how I try to manage the two.
I think it's a brilliant answer, though I didn't respond to that on the Telegram group. We will continue for another 10 minutes max. Right, colleagues. So, yesterday on the Telegram group, we watched, and of course, everybody is free to express their opinion. A very respected senior, I think, Arunji, you have seen that in the Telegram group, actually
Yes.
quoted Sadhguru, and not Sadhguru, I think Sri Sri Ravi Shankar ji, and said, if, uh, if the job demands or your business demands that you have to let go of people, do it. That's your karma. With an instant reaction from a very fellow, a very, very dear colleague, I call him brother, uh, Professor Jaishankar, who came back and said, no, 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 this is not what is right. Right. Actually, as an owner, right, if you have taken money away from the business, it is your time to step in and protect your employees. I don't want to get into who is right or wrong. Ajay sir is also a very, very respected senior. He owns a business. Professor Jay Shankar is also a brilliant professor. But I think what Arunji said makes sense. So Arun Mohan said that if you are going to make the employees share the pain, be very clear that you have to also share the gain with them after the COVID times. How you behave yourself will define the company after COVID. So that is where it becomes extremely, extremely important. Take tough decisions, but take it right respectfully. And wonderful input. Again, I'm not sure if Arunji has attended that session, as such as because of a time difference in Singapore. As Sachinji said, the HR guru, we don't call them human resources. call them human assets. And again, Arunji, without attending that session, is saying the same thing. Treat them as humans. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Right? Any more questions? Please do put in. As I said, we'll take 5 more minutes of right, respected Arunji. Arunji, one more question to you, which is coming in. I believe that the way I have been taking up these challenges, right? I work double hard, right? I try to push myself beyond a particular limit, right? Within my health concerns, right? Having said that, what is really happening in this entire scenario is I have two sets of students here. One set of students who have also come out and who are really fighting it out, but there is a small minority whom I have not been able to reach out to, encourage. When I talk to them, I can see that they're depressed. When they talk also, it's like, sir, abhi nahi, baad mein karunga. So what is your advice to me? And I'm using the word advice to me as a teacher. How do I encourage everybody? So let's say an Akshay or an Abhishek or a Gani, I'm in touch, and I know US is bad in COVID, but Gani is always there. But maybe a colleague somewhere there, when I pick up and say, how is it? It's like, sir, COVID hai, मैं अभी नहीं जाऊंगा बाद में, let things restart, and I don't see it restarting anytime soon. What do you think I should do as a teacher and not as an HR person to encourage everybody and get them on their toes?
So I think, and that's a question that I might also not have a full answer, I must admit, because this challenge has been unprecedented and nobody has a right answer. But I think you're already doing something like, getting people on this forum, having these one-to-many sessions, because Anil Menon sir also, unfortunately, will only have 24 hours. But maybe if you can create a self-help group for these people, who want to be there, maybe do a 21-day meditation session for them where they can do, practice meditation or abundance online. That could be one way. Or assigning them one-to-one, if you mark them and you have a group of people who want to be mentors or coaches, then you could create that platform to say, look, I am, putting up my hand. I need 100 people to volunteer as mentors. And these 100 people will then map to these 100 people who are in need. So you as a teacher could become the fulcrum that really around which this whole thing rotates. And you could facilitate that. We are doing this in Singapore for quite a few people. And people are appreciating that to say, look, at sometimes people just need a patient hearing. Somebody who listens to them, just encourages them or just is there to talk to them as well. So maybe those could be some ideas that I could think of. But honestly, it's a crisis of epic proportion. It will require multiple thinking heads to come together to be able to find a solution here. But as a teacher, as I look at the group also that you've created, it's a very nice shared space where entrepreneurs are coming together, sharing ideas, helping each other. If you can create a shared space like that, maybe a different platform or a similar platform where people in need and people who can help come together, because you got connections in both places. Then those connections might help, because what we really need is 100 Anil Menon sirs, 100 professors in need. And your 24 hours, fortunately or unfortunately, will not be enough.
I think that's
so just a thought, sir.
No, it's a wonderful.
I know you're.
No. It's a wonderful suggestion because I was talking to respected Samish sir, and I'm now ending the session. And Samish sir also said the same thing. So the self-help group, it's already there on Telegram, and I thank all of you all, especially some kids like Chaitanya, who I don't even have to go there sometimes. Questions come Chaitanya or Vikram or right and right. Gani also talks once in a while. He gives suggestions. Anjay ji, they help each other. But this group of mentors, right? For those in need, I think it's a fantastic suggestion. I'm just closing the session, Arunji, by saying that I'm trying to build a platform where they can do business with each other. But along with that, I think if I can get them to address their emotional needs, right, especially with their favorite professors, like Samir sir is very, 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 very famous among students. So there will be a set of kids who will love him, right? There'll be a set of kids who will like Mr. Nimesh Rathod. So let me just talk to these colleagues and say that can we get on and as teachers help these dear colleagues. Thank you, Arun Mone. As very softly, calmly, always a pleasure. Right, you kept quoting from different scriptures. My son has just come back. Right, I would like him to propose the right vote of thanks. Right, thank you again.
Thank you, sir. I should be saying Hey Krishna, good to see you.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing? Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful to see you.
So thank you, Arun. Arun Monet. This completes season 3. Season 4 is going to be on. I'm so happy I could get Arun Mohan to come onto this from Singapore and address. Right. Thank you all of you all for your wonderful feedback to Arunji. He's there on the Telegram group, and Arunji will put his slides on the Telegram group. Please watch the videos. In particular, I would like to watch how Mr. Jayesh Parekh has done something good. Thank you very, very much. Right.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, team. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Goodbye.
Good.
Take care. Good night.